Hi everyone, I thought I'd start my new channel off with a nice relaxed video discussing gender as a social construct and the numerous scientific evidence we have that shows that actually gender is quite firmly rooted in our biology. So what do we mean when we say that gender is a social construct? Well, I did some research, quite a lot of digging around the internet, and I couldn't find a standard definition. But the most commonly used definition, or close to a definition that I could find, was this. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Females become women through a process whereby they acquire feminine traits and learn feminine behaviour. Masculinity and femininity are thought to be products of nurture, or how individuals are brought up. Feminine and masculine gender norms, however, are problematic in that gendered behaviour conveniently fits with and reinforces women's subordination, so that women are socialised into subordinate social roles. They learn to be passive, ignorant, docile, emotional helpmeets for men. However, since these roles are simply learned, we can create more equal societies by unlearning social roles. That is, feminists should aim to diminish the influence of socialisation. So what this is essentially saying is that what we consider to be feminine and masculine behaviours are not driven by any innate biological mechanisms, but are in fact learned through our interactions with other people and are enforced through social pressures. So that's what feminism says about gender. But what does science say? Well, I think first it's important to note that there are several quite fundamental and very noticeable differences between male and female brains. For instance, male brains are 10% larger than female brains and weigh about 11 to 12% more. Female brains have about 10 times the white matter of male brains, whereas male brains have about 6.5 times the grey matter. The hippocampus is larger in women than men. Females have more connections across both lobes, which suggests that women's brains are better wired for social skills, empathy, and memory. Male brains have fewer connections. Predominantly, these connections are between areas for perception and motor skills. This suggests that male brains are better wired for tasks that require spatial awareness. So, what's responsible for the differences that we see between male and female brains? Well, it all starts in the womb. In male fetuses, it's actually estradiol which is responsible for the masculinization process. Testosterone passes through the blood-brain barrier and is converted to estradiol, where it works to masculinize the brain. Female fetuses have a protein in their blood that actually prevents estradiol from travelling to the brain by binding with estradiol. Interestingly, female fetuses exposed to androgen, i.e. testosterone, were found to have more male-type behaviours later in life. We've also observed in rats maternal stress, which can lead to a reduction in the secretion of testosterone, can lead to more feminine morphology in the brains of the male rats, meaning that the reduced availability of testosterone can lead to the brains of male rats developing in a more female manner. We see these sexually dimorphic differences in the brains of male and female animals across the animal kingdom, dimorphic meaning having two forms. This makes animals, as they don't experience socialization to the degree that humans do, a good example of how these differences can impact behaviour. As an example, here's an excerpt from a study on the sexually dimorphic differences in the animal kingdom. Many animal behaviours differ between the sexes and therefore are referred to as sexually dimorphic. Most of these sexually dimorphic behaviours are part of the reproductive repertoire. A good example is apparent in songbirds. In many species, the male produces complex song, whereas the female does not. The production of song in male birds arises from the activity of specific brain nuclei whose growth and connectivity depend on the presence of testosterone during a critical period of development. In rodents, many sexually dimorphic behaviours are also associated with reproduction. Examples are priming of the genitalia for sexual intercourse and a stereotypical position assumed when having sex for females mounting for males. Just as courting and behaviours associated with the sex acts can be dimorphic, other reproductive behaviours such as building nests, caring for the young, foraging for food, nursing and so on can take two different forms in males and females. So what can we conclude from this? Well, I think it's safe to say that some aspects of male and female behaviour in humans are clearly social constructs. For instance, in Western culture, it's more common for females to wear jewellery or makeup and dresses than it is in males. These things are socially constructed behaviours that are enforced by our interactions and are not necessarily prevalent in other human cultures. It's also fair to say that differences between males and females in humans exist more along a continuum than they do in other examples in the animal kingdom, meaning that male and female humans can exhibit behaviours closer to the alternate gender, i.e. males can act more like females and females can act more like males. However, given the clear differences that we see in male and female brains in humans, differences that are repeated across the animal kingdom and lead to sexually dimorphic behaviour in various animals, I think it's fair to say that the same mechanism drives sexually dimorphic behaviour in humans, meaning that gender is certainly not entirely or even mostly a social construct.